Syngenta Canada and C&M Seeds present the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com.
Okay, we're here today at the drill setting calibration clinic. We've got a number of drills and air seeders. This is a smaller 15-foot, 1510 HD Great Plains, 7.5 inch spacing with the turbo coulters up front. And basically what these provide, as they would on a turbo till, a Great Plains turbo till, they do produce quite a lot of tillage action. And for guys that want to level soil, incorporate residue, they do move quite a lot of soil. Now, not everywhere wants to, or not all regions want to move this much soil, but the most important thing for guys that have this or are looking at technology like this, the most important thing is to make sure that these coulters, or no-till coulters on a planter, not that I really like them on a planter, but the most important thing is do not run these coulters deeper than the seeding depth of the double disc openers, because you can end up with what I call a false seed floor in the seed slot, meaning if this coulter works 2 inches deep, your disc openers are working 1.5 inches deep, depending on the soil and the area within the field, some seeds will go to the bottom of the slot created by the disc openers or the no-till coulters, some go to the bottom of the slot created by the double disc openers. So you've got differences in seeding depth. So don't run these any deeper than your double disc openers. A little bit of moisture in the soil, quite a bit actually. When we ran this seeder a while ago, you can see the soil actually sticking, there's still moisture here, still sticking to the double disc openers, bubbling quite a bit of soil out. So we've got some soil disturbance created by the no-till coulters up front, quite a bit of soil disturbance created by the double disc openers in this example. Probably the most important things that growers need to be aware of, the soil conditions in this field are actually pretty loose. Look how loose the soil is here. So it doesn't take a lot of down pressure, it doesn't take a lot of no-till coulter penetration to achieve uniform seeding depth. So in these conditions you don't need a lot of down pressure. On this drill you've got 5 different options. In this example it's in the lower option. From a point of view of down pressure, it's doing fine. As your soils get harder, then more down pressure is going to be required. In some examples you're going to have to add weight to the seeder. So in the hopper, seed and fertilizer level drops below a certain point, you're probably not going to have sufficient weight across all openers to achieve consistent soil penetration with this configuration. So you may have to add weight. There's different closing wheel configurations on the market. This is a pair of closing wheels. Probably works better in my opinion in higher moisture soils where you're struggling to close the slot. The slot remains open. This closing wheel configuration really does better in that environment. If you're seeding into drier soils, I'd prefer the 2 or the 3 inch wheel that runs directly over the seed slot, but not a bad configuration if you're looking for more soil disturbance. So this is a John Deere 1890. It's got 7.5 inch spacing, which is the row spacing we recommend over 10 inch rows. Obviously we get a little bit higher yield from 7.5s than we do 10s. This is you can buy these on eBay. It's a digital angle finder. What we do with these, or what I like to do with these, is I like to zero it on the frame. So give me just a second. I'm going to zero it on the frame. Then I'm going to clamp it. It's magnetic. I put this angle finder on this 4x4 rock shaft. Okay. Right now the hydraulic pressure is actually seeped off. We've lost angle. But this 4x4 rock shaft is really important for the operation of this John Deere single disc opener. The more you rotate this 4x4 rock shaft backwards, the more it compresses this spring and the more downforce it creates to push that disc opener into the ground until the gauge wheel contacts the soil surface. So that's kind of a mouthful. Obviously you can adjust the gauge wheel up or down to increase or decrease your seeding depth. This is how you do it with this adjuster. And obviously you can adjust seeding depth assuming you've got adequate down pressure on this spring. So as you rotate this rock shaft to horizontal, meaning parallel with the top of the frame, this 4x4 rock shaft, or slightly backwards, if you have sufficient frame weight on the seeder, you're going to add more downforce via this spring to this opener to cut into harder soils or heavier residue. So a sharp blade is obviously required. A new blade is 18 inches. We recommend replacing the blades when the bevel is lost or the edge becomes dull, or when the blade reaches around 17 inches. So these are whichever comes first. In most examples, the blade starts to lose its edge, then it doesn't cut, then it hairpins. So a sharp blade, preferably 17 inches or above, is obviously the way to go. So these are some things to think about to maintain better performance with a John Deere single disc opener. So the last drill that we've been looking at and analysing and discussing here today at the session is the case. This is an SDX 40-foot machine, single disc, again 7.5 inch spacing, similar to the other drills that we've discussed today. This one's a little different to some of the others. It still uses a single disc with a radial arm, which is obviously what we're seeing right here. Again, it takes a spring to press the radial arm into the ground, obviously adjusted by means of a rock shaft, similar in design to the John Deere. However, this disc drill has a larger blade. In this example, this is a 22.5 inch diameter blade with a gauge wheel that's a little bit further back compared to the John Deere. So a larger blade, we've actually found, takes quite a lot more, a significant amount more down pressure to press it in the ground relative to an 18 inch disc blade. Okay, it actually runs at about a 5-degree angle to straight forward. The John Deere is about 7.5. So obviously what the idea is to move soil sideways to create enough shadow to fit the seed boot down into. Not that this is really a seed boot, it's really a deflector that the seed is positioned within, and then the seed drops down into the shadow created by the disc. The gauge wheel principle is similar to the John Deere, in which the gauge wheel is actually regulating the seeding depth. So as long as you've got adequate adequate down pressure, pushing this disc blade down until the gauge wheel contacts the soil surface, this is going to guarantee you consistent seed depth as long as you can press the disc down. So the SDX is a heavier frame, everything about it is heavier compared to the John Deere, but they do need more weight because of the bigger blade. So everything's good here. It doesn't have a firming wheel. Firming wheels are available. This is the mounting point. All it takes is a pivot and an arm. In my opinion, the firming wheels are pretty important to press seeds down into moisture, especially if you're seeding into marginal moisture soils. If it's going to rain the day after you seed, or you've got lots of moisture present, it's not an issue. But if you're seeding into dry soils with moisture available at the bottom of seeding depth, it's very important to press those seeds down into the base of the seed slot and then cover the seed with loose soil with a closing wheel assembly similar to this. That is the best approach. But we would recommend definitely a firming wheel added to these drills to press those seeds down into moisture.